Sweet potatoes are usually thought of as a southern crop, but they can be grown in northern states as well. Today I'll show you how to grow sweet potatoes, everything from starting slips to harvesting, curing, and storing. Sweet potatoes are grown from rooted cuttings called slips. You can purchase the slips from a supplier, or you can do what we do and grow your own. We started our slips this year from last year's harvest. You can also start them from sweet potatoes purchased at the market. In fact, that's how we started the slips for last year's crop. Start your slips 40 days before the last frost using large, firm sweet potatoes. We started most of ours this year simply by cutting the potatoes in half and partially submerging them in a container of water about an inch deep. You can also use toothpicks to suspend the potato above a glass jar. Roots will grow on the bottom and slips will grow on top. With both of these approaches, you'll want to change the water regularly to keep it fresh and prevent the development of anaerobic bacteria. We refresh the water every 5 days or so. Another approach is to partially bury the sweet potatoes in a container of sand or soil and keep the growing medium moist but not too soggy. With all of these approaches, plenty of sunlight and warmth helps the slips grow. We started ours in the grow room under a warm light and moved them out to the hoop house this spring when it felt like summer inside. A sunny windowsill is also a great place to start your slips. When slips are 4 to 6 inches long, gently twist them off and keep them in a container of water in a warm, sunny location until they grow roots. When there's no longer any risk of frost and low temperatures are mostly above 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 Celsius, it's time to plant. This year we planted a little more than 3 weeks after our last frost. And because sweet potatoes need full sun, we planted them in one of the most sunny beds in our garden. Sweet potatoes have low nutrient requirements and grow well in loose, fertile soil amended with compost. They probably won't need additional fertilizer if you make annual applications of compost. They grow best when the soil pH is slightly acidic, between 5.5 and 6.5, but ours do well in soil that is slightly alkaline. Sweet potatoes are usually spaced about 14 to 18 inches apart, but I plant them more intensively than that, about 10 to 12 inches apart. These slips are from Stokes purple sweet potatoes, but I'll also plant orange Beauregard potatoes in another bed. I'm planting in a raised bed, but they grow well in the ground and in larger containers, 10 gallons or more. Sweet potatoes grow best in warm soil from 65 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Fortunately, it's pretty hot out today, but on cool days this spring and in the fall, I'll cover the bed with this 6 mil plastic dome. You can also cover the soil with black plastic mulch to retain heat. And because I want the soil to warm up as quickly as possible, I won't mulch the bed with organic matter, which would keep the soil cooler at this time of year. After planting, I soak the soil with water. I'll continue to keep the bed well watered for a few days to help the slips get established. After that, I'll water lightly, but consistently. Sweet potatoes don't require as much water as many other crops. Sweet potatoes are ready to harvest in 100 to 140 days, depending on the variety. I expect to harvest ours in October, a couple weeks before our first frost. It's important to harvest them before the first frost because the cold could damage the roots. And to make sure we have a long growing season with warm soil temperatures, I'll use the plastic dome I showed you earlier to cover the sweet potatoes in the fall when it's cool. Though we'll wait until October to harvest the potatoes, we'll pick some of the greens through the summer. Sweet potato greens are edible and taste great in stir fries and other dishes. The vines spread like crazy, and harvesting some of them helps us keep the plants from taking over the whole garden. But of course, the real payoff is the sweet potatoes themselves. To harvest them, we cut back the last of the vines and dig in with our hands to pull them out. You can use a garden fork if your soil isn't soft enough to use your hands. But we prefer to use our hands initially to avoid damaging the crop, and then we use a fork as a last check to make sure we found all of them. When you harvest your sweet potatoes, if your extended forecast shows temperatures 80 degrees or above for the next 7 to 10 days, you can cure your sweet potatoes outside, in the shade, and protected from the rain. In our case, it's much too cold at that time of year, so we have to cure ours indoors next to a heat source like a radiator. After curing, store your sweet potatoes in a cool, humid environment like a basement or root cellar, where they should last about 6 months. We stored ours in paper bags in our basement. Our harvest from last October lasted through the winter and into early spring, when we finished off the last of our Stokes purple sweet potatoes with a sweet potato pie, which was delicious. So if you've never grown sweet potatoes before, or you've tried but didn't have much luck, I hope this video will help you grow them successfully in the future. And while it's true that they grow best in the sunny south, you can also grow sweet potatoes in the northern states. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more videos on how to grow a lot of food on a little land without spending much or working harder than you have to.